All right, let's talk about a feeling that I'm sure is all too familiar for so many of us. That deep, soul-crushing exhaustion. You know, the kind that a good night's sleep just doesn't seem to fix? Today, we're going to dive into the work of philosopher Byung-Chul Han to figure out why our modern world, with all its promises of freedom, can end up feeling, well, a lot like a prison.
Wow. I mean, that just hits hard, doesn't it? It's not just about being tired, it's about that feeling of waking up exhausted, going to bed exhausted, and just scrolling yourself numb in between. It's this deep weariness that's become such a normal part of our day-to-day that we barely even question it anymore.
And that brings us to the big question, the real mystery here. Why? Why are we all so incredibly tired? I mean, think about it. We've got more freedom, more opportunities, more gadgets to make our lives easier than at any point in history. So why does it feel like we're all just completely running on empty? Let's try to unpack this. You know the feeling, right? Your calendar is packed, back to back, but you just feel hollow. We live in this strange paradox where we get high fives for pushing past our limits, for always being on. We've gotten really good at calling this relentless grind ambition. But if we're being real with ourselves for a second, it feels a lot less like a noble pursuit and a lot more like a prison we built for ourselves.
So, to really get to the bottom of this, we've got to take a step back. Byung-Chul Han says we can't understand our current burnout society without first understanding what came before it. He calls it the disciplinary society, and trust me, it worked in a totally different way.
The whole vibe of this society was negativity. Just think about old-school institutions. We're talking factories, prisons, strict schools. Power was something outside of you. It worked by telling you what you couldn't do. The entire system was built on a foundation of no. A big, loud, you should not.
And here's the key thing. Back then, you knew exactly who was in charge. Oppression had a face. You could point to the boss, the king, the master. The person telling you no was right there in front of you. The enemy was, visible. Okay, but here's where everything flips on its head. Han points out this massive shift. That old tyrant, the external boss, he's gone, but he's been replaced by someone new, someone much, much sneakier. And yeah, this is the really chilling part. That voice pushing you to do more, be more, achieve more, it isn't coming from the outside anymore. It's coming from inside your own head. We become our own harshest critics, our own demanding bosses. The master and the slave are now the same person. Han just nails it with this quote, right? It perfectly captures how we've internalized that pressure. We are our own taskmasters now. I mean, who needs chains when you genuinely believe that the only thing holding you back is you? We've come to see our own exhaustion not as a symptom of a sick system, but as a personal failure.
So let's break this down side by side. It's a tale of two totally different societies. We've moved from a world of you should not to a world of you can. The whole power dynamic has shifted from a negative stop to a positive go, go, go. We're not just obedient little subjects anymore, we're achievement subjects, constantly driven by this idea that we can do anything, as long as we grind hard enough.
Okay, so a society based on you can and unlimited potential? That sounds amazing, right? What could possibly be the downside? Well, this is exactly where things get tricky. This is where, as Han explains it, our own idea of freedom gets twisted and turns into a kind of trap.
See, the really clever and kind of scary thing about this new system is that it doesn't force you to do anything. It seduces you. We volunteer to burn out. We convince ourselves that the endless hustle is our passion, that the constant rush is just how we thrive. We're sold this illusion of choice, and we buy into it so completely that we forget we could ever choose something else.
And this right here is the heart of the trap. We've all become these little entrepreneurs of the self. We're constantly optimizing our lives, building our personal brand, managing ourselves like a business project. The freedom to achieve has morphed into a nonstop obligation to perform. Our own lives become the product we're selling. This all leads to a new kind of power that Han calls psychopolitics. It's a big word, but the idea is simple. Power isn't interested in controlling your body anymore, making sure you show up to the factory on time. No, now it's about getting inside your head. It's about optimizing your mind, your thoughts, your feelings, all to squeeze out the absolute maximum amount of productivity. And a huge part of this is what he calls the tyranny of positivity. You know what this feels like? It's that relentless pressure to have a can-do attitude about everything. if you're struggling, if you're burning out, the problem isn't the system. Oh no, the problem is your mindset. It's not a systemic issue, it's a personal one. You just need to be more positive, manifest your goals, and grind harder. Sound familiar?
So what is all this doing to our brains? Well, it creates something called hyper-attention. We're constantly scrolling, multitasking, jumping from one notification to the next. We get really, really good at juggling a million things at once, but our attention becomes a mile wide and an inch deep. And the cost? We lose the ability to focus, to think deeply, to just sit and contemplate. You know, the stuff that actually makes life feel meaningful.
Okay, so if the prison is inside our own minds, how on earth do we break out? What does fighting back even look like? Well, the final piece of this puzzle is about a kind of rebellion, a quiet, but really, really powerful form of resistance.
This is probably the most important thing to take away from all of this. Your burnout is not a personal failure. Let me say that again. It is not your fault. It's not a sign that you're weak or inadequate. It is the perfectly logical, predictable result of living in a society that treats your very soul like a battery, meant to be used up and then discarded. You're not broken. The system is working exactly as intended.
I mean, it doesn't get much more blunt than that, does it? We've given it all this fancy new branding. Hustle culture, the gig economy, the side hustle. We've made burnout look like a badge of honor. But when you strip away all that glossy marketing, what you're left with is a system that's just designed to exploit.
So what does this rebellion actually look like in practice? Well, it doesn't have to be some grand, loud protest. It can be small, quiet acts, like reclaiming uselessness. Go for a walk, stare at the clouds, do something just because you enjoy it, not because you can turn it into a side hustle. Or choosing to just be in a moment without feeling the need to post it or prove it happened. And finally, embracing stillness, not as a way to recharge so you can be more productive later, but as a genuine act of refusal.
And so I really want to leave you with this one final thought to chew on. In a world that is completely obsessed with what you do, what you produce, what your function is, what if the most rebellious thing you can do is to simply be? What if just being present, being still, being human, not for any purpose, not for any outcome, what if that in itself is the ultimate act of resistance?